more insight into the security pact proposed by the United States. I'm now joined by Brian Becker, the national coordinator of the Answer Coalition in Washington, D.C. Brian, a warm welcome to the program. The proposed security pact with Iraq has been described by some analysts as a prelude to Iraq's colonization by the United States. Do you agree with that characterization?
Well, in essence, yes. I think it's an extension of colonialism. I think that starting on March 19, 2003, with the shock and awe invasion of Iraq, a country that was at peace with the United States and not threatening the people of the United States, since that time, since that country has been devastated by aerial assault and the occupation of its soil by hundreds of thousands of foreign forces, it is in effect a colonial situation. The pact will be an extension for the long period ahead of this kind of colonial sort of situation. It's a way for the United States also to go past the UN deadline, which expires at the end of December. It needs some sort of so-called legitimacy, so get it from the proxy government in Baghdad. I think that's the thinking.
Now, the U.S. Republican presidential candidate, John McCain, has hinted that his country should be prepared for a long-haul presence in Iraq, perhaps for decades. In light of Mr. Obama's quick change of tone on issues such as the perceived threat from Iran, do you think he, too, is likely to turn in favor of a longer-term U.S. presence in Iraq?
Well, you see that Obama is using the same language that President Bush has used to justify the continued occupation, no matter what the public sentiment is here in the United States, which is clearly against the continued occupation of Iraq. Obama says that he will, quote, listen to the commanders on the ground for advice and direction in terms of how the occupation should proceed. It's also clear that he intends to secure the area around the U.S. Embassy, the biggest embassy that's being built in Baghdad right now, the biggest embassy in the world. He intends to secure the Green Zone and, of course, Baghdad Airport. He's ruled out the prohibition of Blackwater mercenary forces, contractors in Iraq who may number more than 100,000. I believe that Obama intends to maintain at least 80 to 150,000 combined forces between U.S. military forces and contractors for a very long period of time to come. He'll rename them perhaps, he'll call it an anti-terrorism force, but clearly the intention is, like McCain, to stay in Iraq for a long time.
Now, given the strong opposition of influential Iraqi political and religious figures to the pact, do you think the Iraqi government will sign it or perhaps will call for certain modifications?
They're under extreme pressure right now. You see that there are demonstrations taking place both in Baghdad and in the northern part of the country, including amongst Kurdish forces against this colonial type imposition. I think that it's going to be, the Maliki government's going to be under tremendous pressure. What the Americans are demanding is that American forces in Iraq can commit any crime and not be held accountable to Iraqi courts, that they can have complete control over Iraqi airspace for a long period of time to come. In other words, they make a complete joke and mockery out of the idea that this is in fact a sovereign country. So the Maliki government is under a lot of pressure. They probably like to prevent this from coming to a head before the provisional elections in order to maintain some fiction that they are an independent force.
And finally, how do you read into Mr. Obama's sudden change of rhetoric, especially as regards the perceived threat from Iran?
Well, I think this is a matter of grave concern. I think it's an indicator that the Obama campaign, while he's going around the United States and getting the support of millions of people who desperately yearn for a change, who really want the Bush administration's policies to be completely renounced, and who, while he's doing that, makes it appear as if he's looking for a way different from Bush, has now appeared before the APEC meeting today and made it clear over and over again that he considers that Iran to be the principal threat to peace in the Middle East, which is a terrible joke. He's also making it very clear that his intention is to isolate the Iranian government, to impose severe economic sanctions, and he emphasized over and over again that he would not take the military option off the table. I think it's not so much a capitulation simply to the APEC forces or the pro-Israeli lobby, but an indicator of where mainstream U.S. establishment thinking goes. They want to isolate Iran because they realize that the Bush administration's war and occupation in Iraq have terribly isolated the United States in the region, and they're now playing a game of bullying, and it's going to go not only through McCain but also Obama, because that's what's expected of him.
Brian Becker, the national coordinator of the Answer Coalition in Washington, D.C. As always, many thanks for talking to Press TV.